Hi there. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today, I am talking to Ida Mae. It's not the name of an old blues singer, at least not in this case. It's the name of a band fronted by the British duo of Chris Turpin and Stephanie Jean Ward. And if you've heard these married musicians' music, you'd know Ida Mae actually kind of suits them. Their first two albums, 2019's Chasing Lights and 2021's Click Click Domino, both recorded in their adopted hometown of Nashville, featured a southern fried blend of rock, blues, soul, and folk that would slide right in on a mixtape with Led Zeppelin, The Kills, latter-day Tom Waits, and most of Jack White's bands. For their latest release, however, new parents Turpin and Ward have gone home, literally and artistically. Recorded in just a few days, Thunder Above You finds the duo and their producer Ethan Johns adding more British folk to the mix, creating their most diverse and dynamic album to date. A few weeks before the album landed, Turpin and Ward got on Zoom from overseas to talk about third releases, taking creative risks, which one of them is a dictator, and much, much more. Enjoy.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello.
Hey. Hi, I am good. How are you two today?
Very good, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. You are, if I've got this right, you are living in London again?
We're in the West Country.
Yeah, in the
but
UK.
so about an hour from London. But yeah, we're in a shire here.
Oh, nice. And did you move back mostly for professional reasons or personal reasons?
Probably more personal, I think, when we had the baby
Okay.
and halfway through the pandemic to be closer to family.
Yeah, okay. Well, fair enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you miss Nashville?
We do, but we have been back since we left
3 or 4 times
three
already.
or 4 times.
Yeah,
So,
no, exactly.
Even with
Nature of the
baby.
business. Yeah.
Yeah. We miss our friends more, but we got quite lucky during the pandemic in that there was a lot of people grounded all of a sudden in Nashville. So we
Right.
went out and toured for 2 or 3 years, made some great friends, and then we were all stuck in Nashville together, which was quite nice for a while. But I think in the reality, if we went back to Nashville now, everyone's always on tour. So
yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah,
you see less of people.
exactly. No, I have a friend who's a touring musician who lives in Las Vegas, and it's the same thing. It's like, he lives there, but he's never there,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you see more friends on the road and at festivals than you do where you live.
Exactly. Well, listen, I am glad to be talking to you guys. I've actually wanted to talk to you for a few years now since the first album came out. But I'm actually kind of especially glad to be talking to you now because this new album is, I think, your best work and my favorite one so far.
Well, thank you very
Amazing.
much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, to me, third albums are always interesting because, when you make your first album, you've got years to write these songs with nobody looking over your shoulder. And then your second one, right, is often songs that didn't make it onto the first one or stuff you've written in a panic during, the compressed time on the road or when you're not on the road. But now, third album, you've kind of been doing this a while. You have some experience. I think you have enough maybe confidence that somebody's not going to come and tap you on the shoulder and tell you it was all a mistake and you have to go get a job. And you're maybe back to the drawing board writing wise and having to decide, okay, what are we going to do now? Does any of this sound familiar?
It does. Some of it certainly does. Yeah. And for similar reasons, I think as well, a first album is so much of our first album was shaping what we were going to be as a group, how we were going to sound, how it was going to feel, how it was going to look, smell, taste. And so all of it is new. And like you say, the second record is often written on the road in the heat of battle, and there's an intensity and a momentum, and then which it was for us. And then the third album, for this one, we definitely had more time to. Well, actually, I don't think we had more time.
I don't think we did have.
The
funny thing is about this record, there's always seems to be something happening other than the first record. When we make a record, like the second one was in the pandemic, so that was made in a totally different way to how we would normally make a record. And then with this one, I was 7 months pregnant when we made it, and we sort of had the songs, sort of didn't have the songs, and then everyone we spoke to that had kids was like, you should record this before you have the baby because you're not going to have time and it's going to be very different and everything's going to change. And we were like, oh, okay. So we didn't have as much time as I think we would maybe have liked, but I think the results for it, we're really happy with how it all worked out. And the way we record it, then we decided, well, we definitely want to record live then. Right. You know, and also if things are going to change, making a record when we have a baby now all getting in the studio and playing as much as we can together, this is the moment to do it, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I think that liveliness definitely comes across in the sound and the feel and the vibe of the album. I mean, these are some of to my ear anyway, the sort of loosest songs you've had, and that, you know, they really feel like you're just kind of, they have an immediacy, you know what I mean? They almost don't feel written as much as just played and performed as they're going. You know, talking about being pregnant, did that influence in any way the songs you were writing?
I think it did.
I think so. It definitely influenced it sonically because my voice was much lower.
Okay. Why is that? I'm not.
I guess my belly was larger, so there was more.
Oh, is it?
I don't know.
Who knows? More
the bass drum. All right.
It was picture and lower than it has been.
It definitely affected the record, and I think as well, it's going to be really interesting. Our next album, writing with the child, really changes everything. So I've only written a few bits and pieces since album 3, because your whole perspective changes. So the kind of Bonnie and Clyde narrative, the drama of just it being the two of us, is now completely changed. Right. So I'm fascinated by the next album, but we'll talk about that next time. But
yeah, as long as you're not going to write a whole bunch of songs about, you know, because, you know, there's so many albums you've heard where somebody has a baby and then the next album is all ponies and unicorns and balloons
Yeah, sod that. Yeah. No, it definitely influenced the record, but I also think there's this sense of, like, you know, this kind of deep breath before something big was going to happen. That definitely existed. And also because you're entirely ignorant and unknowing to what it's going to be like having a child, however prepared you are. So there's this sense of sort of suspended, almost disbelief. And when it came to recording this album, just to touch on what you just said, you almost put it perfectly. That's exactly how this album was recorded and how it felt. Because I had collected, you know, moments of songs, and I'd gone back and rediscovered a lot of British folk music, and of course deeply influenced by American roots music. And I kind of collated all these songs, and we'd been touring, right, you know, as much as we could right up to this record. And we decided we wanted to cut the record live with some of our closest sort of creative, you know, friends, which is, you know, Ethan Johns on drums and Nick Peeney on bass, who are magnificent musicians. And that we managed, through a friend of a friend, to talk our way into this gorgeous mansion house, who's a very dear friend of ours now, to work in this astonishing environment. And it was a huge test because, you know, previously, you know, we'd worked in big studios for the first album. Second record, it had been done in the pandemic, so that was just kind of wild. And now the third album, it was like, we don't have time to go into the studio and book and da-da-da. And we don't want to do that. We wanted to create something in our own little universe, and that's how we did. So we built the studio with our own equipment in this house. And Ethan and Nick had only really heard the songs a couple of days before.
Just us singing them as well.
And we'd learned how to play the songs, you know, because we've been working them up and learning how to sing them, but we hadn't discussed arrangement particularly. So what you hear on the record is almost the first time these songs have ever been played, ever lived, ever breathed. And there's one of the songs on the record called Into Your River, which I think is a first or second take, which I'm incredibly proud of. And Ethan said, you know, he thought it was magnificent. But you can hear that there's just such a conversation between us as players, having a good time, and also just how everything is eking out and breathing, because no one knows what's going to happen next. And that level of risk, to invite that into the studio now, it's kind of really rare. People just don't do that so much. And I think we were all really getting a kick out of that.
And that's why a lot of the songs are about 6 minutes long
as
well.
You know what? It works. It really does work. To me, this album is the one that sounds the most like you know, as opposed to because I think after the first album, a lot of people pegged you as, oh, they're just sitting around and listening to old Robert Johnson records and trying to recreate them or whatever. And obviously you've moved along and expanded the sound and all this, but for this one, it feels really pivotal to me, just in the way you've kind of found this whole sonic, universe that is yours and yours alone. And even though the songs are, as you say, 6 minutes or whatever, they work. I mean, American Cars, somewhere Jimmy Page is sitting there sticking pins into a little voodoo doll of you for that song.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny, the songs, because we really care about, the songs as much as anything else. And I think we get pegged, we get pegged with the kind of blues thing, because I played a metal guitar for many years. So you see a resonator and you go, blues.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we've never really, we've always danced on the fringes of so many genres. We've never sat trend-wise sort of with anyone. It's probably a downfall as well. And on every record, we go between American Cars and we go between some crazy light ballad where I'm trying to be Lucinda Williams or whatever. It's like, I don't know. And I feel like this record as well, because we worked in such a blitz. I really cared about the lyrics and the song, and I was pulling old lyrics out of old folk songs and messing things around, that I think there's a cohesiveness on this record that it
all fits together, in a strange way.
The record we made as a group of musicians as well. I think like management hadn't really heard the songs.
There was no outside
we came back
influence.
From touring. We were like, we've just got to record it. We would just sort of went, we're going in to record a record, we're going to do it like this. And then we would I cooked for everyone as well, and we were all staying in the house, and it was 2.5 weeks of just sort of being completely immersed, all of us in it. And I think
2 songs a day.
I think you can hear it, and it was I think to date we've done a lot of records in old bands and stuff as well. My favorite recording experience, because it was beautiful. The weather was perfect, breakfast outside every morning together, and
it was pretty special.
Long chats, and then doing the music, and it was I think I can hear that on the record, the way we're all playing together, that it was a very relaxed environment to make a record in.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. And all those long songs gives you plenty of room for some great guitar work on this thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. I stepped loose,
Yeah, I stepped out. I'm obsessed with guitar and I love guitar playing, but I've never really stepped out on records live. I mean, I'm all over the place. We improvise so much, but on the records I've always been a little shy, because I don't love, and here comes the big guitar solo on the record, but we just kind of improvised it out, and like Wild Flying Dove, it's quite exciting when you finish the song, and then you start ripping into a solo and you have no idea what you're going to play and how it's going to go, and that's just exciting. There was moments I could, I was imagining the Hendrix Experience and Cream and that stuff, where they're just making up on it was great. I loved it. Well, thank you. I love playing guitar on this record.
Oh yeah, and I mean, talking about Wild Flying Dove, I mean that is also just another standout. That's such a wonderful. It has that Southern soul ballad, Bobby Gentry kind of feel to it, but then there's also sort of like almost a Fleetwood Mac rock band. Again, you're just pulling all these things together and somehow making them all fit together and work. So kudos on that. So let's talk about Ethan Johns a bit. You've worked with him on every album now. What does he bring to the table, and what makes this sort of partnership work?
What's really interesting, you say, I mean, part of the sound is Ethan and Nick. I mean, hugely. I mean, we're as musicians, we kind of step up with the songs and we trust them, to do exactly what is right for the song. So we just begin to play together, really, in that respect. So in terms of how these songs come together and the sound of them, it's partly, it's 50% those guys. But Ethan is one of our sort of biggest inspirations when it comes to making records, and his mindset and psychology and mantra has become increasingly important to us over the years.
Definitely.
And he wasn't producing on this; he just wanted to come and play drums, which is incredible, because he's played drums with Crosby, Stills and Nash, and he's toured with Emmylou Harris and whoever, you know, all the big names, you know. So he's an astonishing energy to have in a creative environment like that, because he's so intuitive and he's so empathetic and so caring when it comes to
and
what's
he
being
really
recorded.
gets, even when he's not, like Ethan wasn't producing, but Ethan's always producing if he's doing music.
I would think
You
that's
know?
just the way he hears everything, right?
Yeah, and he's been really amazing with Chris as well, because Chris produces and he's always like, well, you know, he sort of taught you a lot from when we first started working with him, and he's very much like, well, you produce this because you know what you're doing, and I'll have an opinion here and there. But it's quite, yeah, it's amazing working with Ethan as a drummer as well, because he has such an amazing feel.
Oh yeah.
And we've all played together a lot, and that's part of the reason we wanted to do the record like this, is because Click Click Domino, he's drumming on that record as well, but we all did that separately from across the world in the pandemic and the lockdown.
Right.
And we've played sort of live sessions together, but I don't think we've ever had 2 weeks together all just playing.
Yeah, and I think what does he bring to the table? It's like just an incredible knowledge, a wealth of knowledge and taste from learning from his father. And also, if you know, it's kind of a litmus test. If Ethan thinks it's good, I can relax. You know, because it's not going to be recorded if it's not, you know.
And if it's not good, you'll know about it.
You know.
He's not shy about it.
You know, when Ethan says something is good, you feel really proud.
But yeah, he's a good friend. So he's been very generous with his time, and I got to mix the record with him, which was amazing for me. But yeah, so kudos to him. He's a wonderful chap.
So do you think self-producing is going to be the way forward, or?
I mean, who's to say, really? I mean, I think we've hit a point with our music where we know what we want it to sound like. I think our next record is, I mean, we're just beginning to think about what that's going to look like. And that's going to be we have some big thoughts for it. And I think we may self-produce, we'll find out as time goes on. But I think we've accepted that our music is kind of wild. It doesn't fit in any sort of category or what have you. And so that in some respects, we're sort of the best people to record it, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, and it's fun to mess around with things, and it's an interesting, and I'm obsessed with recording as much as I am guitars and sonics, and it's fun to be able to do it yourself. And over the years, we've saved money and bought equipment, so we're able to do that, which is huge for us.
Oh yeah. In terms of songwriting, is there a way it typically works for you? I mean, are you both in the room together, or do you write separately and then merge? If there is a typical scenario, what is it?
We're always in every room together.
Well, sure, yeah.
The writing, and I'm just there throwing my opinions out.
Yeah, so I'll come up with a lyric or the lyrics, the melody, and a guitar thing, and Steph kind of comes in as a sort of dictator, director role.
Director.
That's been recorded now, so you can use that against him.
She comes in like a director, and we move arrangements around. And Steph, similarly, if I bring something to the table and it's not good, I will.
I am a bit of a.
Just by the knee-jerk reaction.
Bit of a Caesar is what he calls me.
Know that it's not good, you know.
Well, yeah, but now you've got the other little dictator in the other room. That'll be the real, measurement. So
that's really how it works. Yeah.
Well, so do you then, when you give the thumbs down to something, I mean, is that just like throw it away, or do you sort of I like this line, or I like this bit, and let's keep that? And
well, yeah, I have to work and fight a little harder to convince that something's working or is good or is correct.
Yeah, it's never I'm never disparaging of what you're writing, because it's always great, but it's definitely Chris will 100% of the lyrics and the melodies, and then some of the stuff I've done on piano, if there's a nice chord sequence and that sort of thing, we write a bit more together, but it's never like hate that one, like that one, hate that one. I'm not like a major label.
I don't hear a single, honey.
Yeah. I can't smell the money.
Talking about working as a couple and being in each other's pockets all day long, obviously there are days when you are not having a good day. Uh, if you're on the road and doing that, are the shows better or worse if you're fighting?
To be honest, we don't really.
We're really boring.
It's pretty tedious, yeah.
And we don't really fight. The only time we get annoyed is with other people.
Sure.
Whereas between us, we're quite. I think so. We were on the road when we met. You know, we've been touring since we were 18, and before we were together, we were in a band together. So I think it's all we've ever known and done. So that level of stress and anxiety constantly that we work at as a couple, we're completely used to. So I think if you threw a couple that were working a 9 to 5 then into touring life, it would be terrible. But I think because we're just used to existing in that way that we.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be harder moving forwards with our baby, because it's like, wow, like how do we do everything together, but we can't just 100% always look after her. Like, how are we going to get anything done? So that's going to be a whole sort of.
That's what we're working on now. Yeah, at the minute on tour, sort of Chris is doing sound check. I'm basically a rock star looking after a baby on tour. I don't even sound check. I just stroll in for the show. But I do all the childcare on tour, and then Chris does all the gear and stuff and sorts everything out. It's how we're doing it at the minute. But it's definitely obviously changed the way we tour and the way we work together.
Oh yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, well, it changes everything, obviously. You know, talking about touring, I mean, you guys have spent so much time working and being on the road with people who obviously were, you know, massive influences on you, or just, you know, fantastic artists. I mean, are those scenarios where you can learn things from these people, or are you just kind of so busy, you know, trying to get your own act together and make sure everything's working, that you're kind of in your own bubble, you know?
No, I think you learn by osmosis and watching the shows, because all of a sudden we know, like, you know, seeing a band live, you suddenly really appreciate the song in ways that you can't just listening on record, and watching the artist sing that song, like the Willie Nelson songs, you know, realizing the depth and just power of some of those lyrics is hard to conceptualize at home. Almost, it's odd. It's a weird thing, hard thing to explain.
Watching the crowd and the energy and the people at the front singing.
So I think you take a lot. We've taken a lot from that, and also in how people hold themselves and how they are with their songs on a stage. So I think I've taken a lot from that as a creative person, not just as a performer, not just as a songwriter, but just in how they inhabit the worlds, their own worlds, and the ships that they're riding in. You know, it's really inspiring, and also just to get to know people and talk and chat. Like, some of my closest friends now are also some of, you know, hugely inspiring to me. And being able to talk music and creativity with people that are currently in that beautiful, talented moment of, you know, like they're in their heyday moment of records and what have you. Right. That's deeply inspiring, I think. How that comes out in the songs, I'm not entirely sure, but it definitely does something.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting too, bringing these songs to the stage, because again, they are looser and sort of more open-ended than some of the earlier stuff. So you've really got kind of a big canvas to paint on with a lot of these songs, right?
We do, yeah, and we're funny because we don't necessarily mind changing things up live. You know, we work as duos, we work in a trio, we work in band. Like, we tend to sort of mix it up. And because the way those songs were born and recorded, they were so fast and furious, and we didn't think twice about it. You know, within 3 shows of touring this next album, we're going to be in a entirely different world of them, which is how we like to operate. And we've, you know, it's more standard now. There's so many acts you play with. There's, you know, backing tracks, or there's arrangements or musical directors. And there's nothing wrong with any of that, but the music we love and the way we like to operate has to be entirely fluid for us to not get bored. And we feel like more of a creative choice to do that now, especially in the UK. It's more of a creative choice to do that than do it any other way.
Yes, well, I had a question popped out of my head. Anyway, the thing that I see on your bio all the time is that you have toured in 46 of the United States.
I'm proud of that. Yeah.
Which ones are you missing?
We're missing the Dakotas.
Well, there you go.
Alaska,
Hawaii,
Okay.
Montana. I think that's
That's
it.
45 then.
Oh,
Don't you screwing yourself up there.
Don't tell anyone.
All right.
We might have
And
traveled.
ironically, I'm right above the Dakotas, so I guess my odds of seeing you are like zero.
Yeah. It could be very high now, you know.
Yeah,
Well, maybe, yeah, if you're going to check it out. All right. Well, listen, I think that is about all I've got for you guys today. I really want to thank you for your time. I really want to thank you for the new album, as I said, my favorite so far. And I definitely look forward to seeing what it is you guys do next.
Fantastic.
I love your
Well, thank you.
posters as
Yeah,
well.
I was saying that Bowie poster is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. And what is behind you? Is that the Beatles or?
Got the biggest poster of the Beatles in the world.
Okay, yeah.
Too
That's
big for the
nice.
room.
Way too big for the
Too
room.
big for our English room. We need an American room for that poster.
There
Yeah.
you go. Well, yeah, now you guys just need to have some of your own giant posters like that.
That's
Get
right.
that happening.
Yeah. It's got the Beatles crotches behind my head. It's a bit awkward. You know, we have some really exciting things coming. We have some tours on the way, and there's another project that's happening, and there's some really exciting cross-pollination that's going to happen in the next year. So yeah, watch this space. It's going to be full on.
Excellent. Is this you and some other artist people?
No, who knows? Who knows?
No. So you're just gonna drop the little breadcrumb and then take it back.
It's going to be exciting. Yeah, no, it's going to be a busy year for us. So yeah, watch this space. There's some crazy stuff going to start to happen.
No more babies yet.
No
though.
more babies yet. One at a time.
Hey, how many times a day do people call you Ida Mae?
Oh, all the time. Mainly me.
Yeah.
Hi, Ida
Yeah,
Mae.
no, I would hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd probably change the name now if we could. We're stuck with it.
We
So,
are stuck with it.
Well, it's whatever. I mean, it's a good name. It works, but yeah, I'm sure it's. You might as well. Here's the thing. Just adopt. Just go with it. You know.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm just like, yeah, hi.
Yeah, whatever you say. Yeah. Okay, well, lovely to meet you. Thanks for your time
nice
as well.
to meet you.
Great questions. Thank you.
All right, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest.